Highlander, the gloriously bonkers 80s fantasy where immortals hack each other apart across centuries. Queen rocks the soundtrack. Sean Connery somehow plays a Spanish Egyptian with a Scottish accent, and Christopher Lambert barely spoke a word of English before filming. Both Connery and Lambert nailed their respective part, and Highlander remains one of the biggest cult classics of the 1980s. But through all the madness, one figure looms larger than life: the Kurgan. Played with psychotic brilliance by Clancy Brown, he's one of the most unforgettable villains of the decade. But here's the thing most people don't know. The film barely scratches the surface of what this monster was supposed to be. Crack open the novelization, and suddenly the Kurgan isn't just some random maniac with a broadsword. He's a walking nightmare carved out of history itself. While Sean Connery's Ramirez provides a brief resume of the Kurgan's past, it truly pales in comparison to the fascinating details the novel provides. In the movie, the Kurgan's just a sadistic brute who wants the prize. But crack open the novelization, and suddenly he's 3,000 years of pure nightmare fuel. If we take a look at his origins, the Kurgan had his first death in 970 BC, courtesy of his own drunk father who smashed his skull in with a rock. As he comes back to life, the Kurgan forces his beloved father to swallow a burning stone, and from then on, it's 3,000 years of carnage. The movie never reveals how the Kurgan acquired the knowledge of being immortal. He just turns up like a leather-clad demon, swinging a sword the size of a lamppost and laughing like a lunatic. But the novelization, it gives us a glimpse behind the curtain. Turns out, even the biggest bastard in Highlander had a teacher once. Enter the Bedouin, an immortal wanderer who roamed the deserts, wise, experienced, and for a brief moment, the closest thing the Kurgan ever had to a friend. It was the Bedouin who explained the game, who told him about the gathering, and who tried in vain to civilize the monster. He taught him the rules: no fighting on holy ground. Immortals can only die by beheading, and the quickening that comes when you take another's head. And for a while, the Kurgan listened. He watched. He learned. He sharpened his blade. The Bedouin might have thought he was guiding a rough warrior into something more. But this was the Kurgan. Cruelty was in his bones. Violence was his language. And when he'd learned everything he wanted, when the Bedouin had outlived his usefulness, the Kurgan did exactly what you'd expect. He went into full Palpatine mode and killed his mentor while he slept. No honor, no warning, no duel, just cold-blooded murder. From there, the Kurgan rampaged across history. The novelization fills in the blanks that the movie only hints at. He begins with the Kurgan tribes of the Russian steppes, brutal nomads who valued strength above all else. For them, cruelty wasn't a vice, it was a virtue. And even by their standards, the young Kurgan was a monster. He wasn't just the product of that world, he was its perfection. Then he moves west with the Vandals and Goths, carving his way through Europe like a plague with a sword. He fought for them, against them. It didn't matter. To the Kurgan, tribes were tools, allies to use, enemies to slaughter, sometimes both in the same week. When the Vandals sacked cities, he was there in the blood and smoke, laughing while he swung his blade. From there, he's in the east with the Mongols, Tatars, and Turks. Imagine it. Horsemen thundering across the steppes, entire armies tearing through villages. And at the front of it all, a grinning immortal who couldn't be killed. To men who already thought Genghis Khan was touched by the divine, the Kurgan must have looked like a demon given flesh. The Mongols feared him, admired him, but ultimately he turned on them too, because loyalty wasn't in his vocabulary. The Vikings? Oh, he fit right in. Berserkers who lived for battle, raiding coastlines with axes and fire. For the Kurgan, this was paradise. A culture that worshipped violence, where he could indulge his cruelty with no questions asked. And you can bet he left plenty of immortal corpses floating in the fjords. Everywhere he went, the pattern was the same. He'd join a tribe, fight alongside them, learn their ways, and when he'd had his fill, he'd cut them down like wheat. They thought they had a warrior. What they really had was a living plague. One notable duel was against the Mongol, another immortal warrior. In the novel, this fight takes place before his clash with the MacLeods in 1536. If the Kurgan was a force of nature, the Mongol was one of the few men who might have matched him, at least on paper. A fellow immortal, born of the horse tribes that thundered across Asia, the Mongol wasn't some ragged swordsman picked off in a back alley. He was fast, disciplined, and deadly. The kind of warrior who'd spent his life in the saddle, bow in one hand and curved blade in the other. Their duel, as described in the novel, wasn't a pretty dance of honor. It was two predators circling each other on the steppes, both knowing there could be only one. The fight ended the way they always do, with the Kurgans standing over a severed head. The Mongols' speed and skill had meant nothing against raw brutality and centuries of experience.